Hi, my name is Gabe Robinson, owner of Project 15, one of the 4 host courses for Canadian Nationals this fall.
Hi, I'm Jake Voskamp, PDA number 141539, out here at P15, my home course.
Here we are in hole 1. We made some recent changes to this hole just last fall. As you can see, this has become a more or less straight hole. Formerly, it was a left-handed dogleg, and I wasn't quite satisfied with the allure and the excitement of the very first shot on the very first hole. So I've gone and straightened this out as best I can to give you a great view of your landing area and hopefully a view of your target ultimately way down the fairway. So I'm quite happy with how the changes have gone. It has not changed the length of the hole whatsoever, but it does require that you put together 2 good shots to get anywhere near a birdie opportunity.
Long par 4, dead straight the whole way. Ideal landing zone, just past a little lip up the hill. You gotta throw about 340 to get in good position for a birdie. It's either a fairway or a mid if you can throw really far.
It's hard to say really, and as the joke goes, it kind of a for fun project that got a little out of hand.
Shot 2, just want to push it straight, let the disc fade at the end. Straight through the gap, then left towards the basket.
My original idea was just to put 3 baskets out here and kind of make a 3-hole loop that you can go play anytime with your buddies and have a beer. This is hole 2, a relatively short par 3, but quite a challenge from the long tee because you have to throw very far, very level. Large pit to my right, which is to the tee's left, and it seems to always gobble up the early hyzer shots. The intent, in my opinion, is to work a mini flex and drop it onto the green and let it skip out without going too far. I'm really fond of this hole. It's certainly one of the most pretty holes on the course, and this big pit is dramatic and exciting for most people. And it's, I think, a pretty good rhythm to start with a challenging first hole and a beautiful but less difficult second hole before you move into something much more difficult and much longer.
Yeah, we're looking for a flip up here with either a mid-range or a fairway driver, or a baby flex is also a play.
Pretty quickly, I got excited about making 9 holes. We've got a few other people's input on that plan, and it sounded like it made more sense to build a larger course. Here we are in hole 3. You're standing on the long tee. The short tee's right here. We've recently extended this hole from just about 960 feet to about 1,060 feet. The extensions at the far end, we'll give you a look at that later. This is a relatively short carry over a dramatic pit. Most people can make the pit edge if they can get the disc up enough. The challenge is if you get the nose up too much, you'll fall off into these thorns on your left or out into a scrubby area on your right. The hole demands some distance on 2, if not 3 consecutive shots, and with some trouble to the side. There is no OB, there are no Mandos on this course anywhere, but the left-hand side of this hole is somewhere that you do not want to be given the thorns and the rough ground.
Yeah, ideal landing is about 475 off this fairway. Flex line or the flip up. I like the flip up because it's a lot less dangerous.
Got some input, some help from some people. And if you fast forward a few months of getting the project rolling.
So yeah, good position here. Just gonna be throwing a fairway driver to keep it in the middle. It gets really tight up there. So anywhere in the middle, I'm happy with here.
It turned out that the Ontario provincial tournament lost the course locally and needed a new course to run. Yeah, we're standing right now maybe 100 feet from the old original basket. That's roughly where the original basket was, off to the side a bit more. We've opened up a huge amount on the left, and just this past fall, with a bunch of help from some wonderful people, including my friend Hugh, my friend Jude, and a few others, we added about 160 extra feet of distance. That means from the long tee, this hole measures 1,060. And I have to admit, part of the point of that is because this turned out to be very nice terrain, very interesting terrain with that bit of a climb at the far end. But the other thing is it was a total ego trip, because why not have a 1,000-foot hole if you want to be taken seriously as a disc golf course? So it's kind of bullshit, but it's kind of a fun thing as well. And that was the underlying impetus to get this extension done. 1,000-foot hole, and here we are.
Kind of pick which line you want here. There's a lot of different available options. I'm gonna go with forehand turnover.
I was thinking this whole project would take me 3 or 4 years to build. and I'd just chip away at it sort of one hole at a time. And instead it was like, hey, can we get this ready for June or July when we've got provincials? Here we are in hole 4, another short but dramatic par 3, and certainly one that a lot of people talk about. I know some good friends of mine use a photograph of this hole as their wallpaper on their phone. For many people, this hole visually stands for the whole course. Beautiful trees, rock, and tight but interesting and varied set of options when it comes to what you can throw. It's amazing how frequently people seem to hit this very branch, throwing off both the short and the long tees. It's just somehow perfectly placed. I can't take a lot of credit for that, but it's a lucky thing. Early on, there were a couple extra branches up here. They were dead, and this one's nearly dead as well, so it broke over time. But as long as this one's standing, we'll still have the original guardian hole, or as we call it, the goalie, the keeper. It's got a bunch of nicknames.
Best play here is a backhand straight shot, or some people will throw a flex sidearm as well, about 320 feet.
Again, fairly short hole, beautiful. It requires you to get just past this rocky ledge here to have an easy putt, but you can still make it if you've fallen out to the left. This is hole 5. This is a long, challenging, pro-level par 3. In a number of the layouts, it plays as a par 4 to give you a little bit of love, but this hole as a par 3 matches in difficulty and distance almost any pro-level course. I think it's a beautiful hole. You have to play through this birch, which constricts the airspace, requires that you cover a lot of distance with a fairly level throw, and then work your way uphill into a green that will stop your disc, but be ready for the wind. It seems to come off of this high left corner with a downward push and messes with people who aren't expecting it. A lot of people end up short on their upshot, and the wind has a lot to say about that. Beautiful hole. I'm very happy with this one. Hopefully you'll enjoy playing it too.
This is the hardest birdie on the course. It's like 430 uphill. Flip up, flex sidearm, flex shot. A lot of good ideas, all really hard to execute.
And I agreed, yes, with some help. The help did and did not materialize, but in that first tournament, there was a course here with, I think, 16 baskets in the ground and a very narrow, woody, scratched out of the woods course. Looks like this tee pad needs work. They settle over time, and it's been a month or so since I did this. Welcome to hole 6. This is the new tee pad. We will be using this in the Canadian National Tournament. I've been experimenting with tee pads on this hole for some time, the goal being to set you up with 3 viable options off the tee as you enter a somewhat narrow fairway that runs all the way back to a beautiful green with a rock set in a glacial erratic, a giant granite boulder that was pushed here by the giant sheets of ice that overlaid this whole region a couple tens of thousands of years ago. Again, 3 good looks off the tee, whether you're at the long tee or the short tee. Each of them is going to set you up with different lines into the rest of this fairway. Beautiful hole, certainly one that a lot of people mention when they come to the course. They'll mention hole 6 as one of their favorites. And it's one of mine as well. Not terribly long, but very challenging to get all the way up there.
3 main options here: turn over, hyzer, straight up the gut. Par 4, gotta land about 320 off the tee here.
I may have said many times before, I really do prefer holes where you can see the target off the tee. And I wasn't loving the fact that you'd stand in this slightly dangerous spot and throw another blind hyzer.
Just looking to throw straight at the basket and just get lucky around the last trees.
I had blocked off the original long tee, which I find is a little vulnerable to really bad shots off of 5. So this is a way to check it. The idea for the design of this hole is really to try to give you at least 2, if not 3, shot shapes off the tees. This is hole 7, called Pine Box because of the cluster of pine trees that surround the green. Short, beautiful, flat, very straightforward par 3. One of the more narrow hallway type of shots on the entire course. This is not my favorite style of disc golf, these sort of narrow, prescriptive shaped holes. But I think it's worth having at least one on any course because this is what we expect as disc golfers. We expect to be asked to throw narrow, sharp, well-aimed shots, and this asks that of you despite it being fairly short. I think it's only 300 feet from the long tee. Again, narrow, fairly straightforward. The trick is to get through a couple of these little bumpers at about 100 feet and then at another 200 feet. Once you're through that, you just have to putt well to get away with this one. Welcome to hole number 8. This hole is called Tiger Trail, a play on Tiger Woods and all things to do with golf and all things that are difficult. We're standing almost 300 feet from the basket. It's taken a fantastic shot to get here in one. Many of us are going to take 2 strokes to get to this point, where now you've opened up the last leg, the last channel of this long and twisting par 5. From here, the idea is to clear the obvious trees that are in front of you, even though we're now looking down the right-hand channel. It's very common to get working out onto the left side of this hole as your backhands burn out. And there's lots of play room on the left-hand side now. That's one of the big upgrades that's come over the last several years, is really making the last half of this hole more playable on the left-hand side. Beautiful hole, really one worth scouting if you can, and taking advantage of a good landing position to give yourself good angles into the green. It's slightly uphill, so it plays a little bit longer, but once you're clear of this first corner, it's actually a lot shorter than it looks. Challenging, yes, but stay on the fairway and you have a real chance.
Just throwing a stand-up hyzer here, push to the left. Left side's definitely better than the right side.
Yeah, this is another par 5, and it's a bit shorter, and you can get away with shorter par 5s in the woods because it's a fair bit more challenging to shape shots.
Be aggressive. Go for the 3 on this par 5.
This one isn't going to beat you up with distance, but you are going to pay for errant shots. This one's been opened up a whole lot since we started. It was originally built along the road that we're walking now. For your information, these are the white stakes that are set at 200 feet in from the basket. It's shot with a laser, so it does not account for elevation, and it does not account for any kind of turn to your shot. But anytime you see these white stakes, you know that you're looking at a 200-foot upshot from that point, or at 100 if you're further off. They're very useful. I've got players already saying that they are just throwing to those stakes because they have reliable 200-foot upshots. Use them as you will. Hole 9, this one is called Park Slope. A little better than 300 feet, narrow, but I think absolutely beautiful, and slightly uphill. Plays uphill a little more than you might expect. Lots of people mention this as one of their favorite par 3s. I'm inclined to agree, even though it tends to beat me up a little bit. Again, another opportunity to throw long and straight. Left and right is challenging, though there's a lot of relief on both sides to get yourself out of trouble. Bit of a rocky upslope into the basket, so you're not going to get a lot of ground interaction that helps you. So think about floating it all the way to the basket.
This is one of my favorite holes on the course. Looking for a flip-up backhand. It's about 330 feet.
The name comes from a part of Brooklyn where my sister used to live, in Brooklyn Park Slope. Other than that, it's just a play on words, as all of these silly hole names tend to be. So Park Slope, one of my favorites. Beautiful hole. Hole 10. This hole has absorbed a whole lot of upgrade and work time in the last couple of years. Opening up the left side in particular of this tee, shifting this tee to the right. It used to be just off to my left, another 40 feet to my left. And now the idea is trying to straighten out the first leg of this hole. It used to really zig and zag. The hole is called Scarab. Used to be 1 leg, 2 leg, and 3 leg, again, like a lightning bolt. The shape of that is still there, and it still works in that fashion. But what I prefer about the new setup is that you can see far down. You can see about 600 feet down the fairway to the last corner, which goes right. You might be able to make it out just past that enormous, beautiful white oak tree that is on the right-hand side of that last corner. This is the giant white oak that defines the inside right-hand corner of the right-hand turn on the last leg of this, which is hole 10, called Scarab. This tree is very special to me. I think it's beautiful. It nearly died with the spongy moth epidemic of last year and the year before, but it's actually doing really well this year, and I'm thrilled to see that it survived. It's the point that you want to get past and well left. Once you're clear of it, you get a pretty good look into this green, and we're playing a shorter target position than we have historically, right up on the crest. Beautiful hole, really happy with this one. It's finally taken shape. It gives you this opportunity to throw long and straight. Seems to play much longer than it is. You'll throw good shots and think, hey, I'm way up there, and be disappointed to realize that you're not. Again, big changes recently. The idea is making the left-hand side a lot more playable and giving you a lot more air to work with, a lot more options in terms of your shot shape. So.
Hole 10, throwing a baby flex shot. Anywhere around 400 feet will get you in good position. Want to end up on the left side.
I have a few friends who are good enough to help with some of the line trimming, and that's hugely helpful. pubs. Paul Saftich does a bunch. His son Johnny helps out sometimes.
Flip up, turn it to the right.
Tyler Sundberg helps out a bunch. Great guys, really big contribution to the course in that respect. And then there's the actual upgrade work that I also am lucky enough to get some help with. Hugh Dobson, Jude Rutland, and a handful of other guys will help with that stuff, including pubs. This is hole 11. This one's called Ancestor because of this old ancestor pine, which once in the 80s, this was more or less a field, and that pine tree surely produced all of these other pine trees in the region, thus the name Ancestor Pine. About 310 feet from the long tee, you're playing through a number of trees back into this little bit of a nooked green with another big, beautiful maple tree anchoring the green. A lot of disc golf holes are designed around a feature, and in this case, this big pine tree was certainly the beginning of the process of designing this hole. A beautiful hole. I think it's interesting. I've had to do a lot of work to make this one work, in my opinion. It does feel a little bit like a spray and pray, and the idea with the recent cutting, including a central channel being opened up, is trying to give you more distinct lines where you can try to hit a line specifically rather than just play short for position.
Another about 330-foot hole here. I'm going for the straight gap. It offers a hyzer, turnover, and a straight gap. I'm gonna go right at it.
I don't think that's the most fun way to design short holes where you're forced to throw short. Now it's a whole lot more interesting in my opinion. And again, this beautiful tree is always a treat to walk past. Welcome to hole 12. We're standing on the green of this long, slightly narrow dogleg hole. The hope is to get up to a little clearing over there so you can cross this channel into the green in this new deep position. It's not that new, it went in a couple years ago. Very fond of it. This is the one with the famous little bunker in the front of the hole. Again, you need to really have to get across the gap and penetrate into this green to have a chance at a birdie. And the big thing is not getting into trouble off the tee. I love this hole. I think it's quite an interesting use of the landscape, and the green is a lot of fun. It's cool to get up to the ridge and then work your way through that gap. Quite a fun hole.
Par 4. Again, you want to throw it about 330 feet, slight to the left at the end. Fairway driver gets there quicker. I like that option.
So a lot of this work, for example, was done in October and November of last year. If you look around, you can see that we're getting a lot of these suckers coming up from recently cut trees.
Pretty perfect off the tee. Opens up a hyzer or a forehand and hyzer. I'm gonna go with the hyzer.
So I'm really grateful to all those people who helped, and couldn't do it without them. But I wouldn't say that I get a ton of help on a day-to-day basis. If you feel like helping out, please be in touch. I could always use some help. Welcome to hole number 13. This is called Sentinel. There is a sentinel guarding the top of this hole. The basket hangs from it. This is another of these iconic spots on the course where people tend to mention, I really love the hanging basket, and I can't blame them. Beautiful hole, challenging though. The smart thing to do off the tee is to play for position into this rocky step and then play up. But if you've got the shot to penetrate and land up by the basket, you can make that putt and come away with a rare 2. Beautiful hole, a lot of fun, and certainly another of these iconic Project 15 holes.
Hole 13, tough par 3, working up the hill to hanging basket. Forehand flex shot or a backhand right at it is a good play.
So it was a course, and it was nice that it was basically done enough to be played, but it was in pretty bad shape with respect to where it is today. And since then, I've taken some real delight in chipping away and building it slowly, improving it slowly, learning about the game.
That's like the last super tough tee shot, so.
Welcome to hole 14, called Pet Cemetery. We're standing about 2/3 of the way down the fairway at the edge, ready to cross the gap to this nestled green that's got a bunker behind it and this very impressive front wall. Always have to mind the wind, always have to get your shot to stop and stall. And of course, the first half of the hole is playing for position to give you an angle across this one. Beautiful hole. Originally, only the short tee was in play, and not long after the course opened about 8 years ago, I almost immediately added this extra leg to make this into a par 4. One of my favorite holes altogether, always interesting, lots of good outcomes, and it really does challenge you to place your first shot to set up your second shot, and that's golf.
Hole 14, great par 4, 2-shot par 4. There's a hyzer gap straight up the middle, backhand hyzer, going right up the middle.
Changing holes and lengthening holes, fixing holes, adding a second set of tee pads, constantly messing with those to make them work, killing junipers. And that's sort of the rough story.
Right down in the cemetery.
Here we are in hole 15. This one is called Nubbins Field. When I first moved in, they had logged this forest, and it was full of the scraps from logging, chunks of wood, many of which are now rotten into nothing. This is a par 4. It's a long hyzer down this beautiful tunnel, setting up on the crest of the hill to play down into a depressed green. Certainly not a terribly challenging first hole as long as the wind doesn't throw you off. But the trick is to get far enough down the fairway before you get left. Blowing through it straight is a big problem, and burning out to the left is a big problem. It's a touchy shot, but setting up for the next shot, which you will get a look at soon, is indeed what you're trying to accomplish off this tee. Not my favorite hole, but certainly one of the more interesting ones with respect to requiring distance and precision at the same time.
Just throwing a straight backhand, hyzer at the end, working uphill, just land in the middle.
In tournaments, we set up a set of scaffolding so that we can spot on hole 3 and make sure that players on this hole are not starting too soon, since this is a bit of a blind shot up and around the corner.
Not a bad spot. It kind of forces me to throw a hyzer. You'd like to be a little bit farther up the fairway.
If the group in front of you is delayed playing into those bushes, there is a chance that you could throw in and hit them without the people on the scaffolding giving you the stop or go sign. This is hole 16. We're standing on the long tee. You can see the short tee just up here. This one's called Dry Creek because there's a kind of a limestone drain that collects all the meltwater in the spring. You've got to play into this gap, get around the corner on the right, and throw up to a very pretty green. Position off the tee is key. You need to get to the left side of the fairway to have a look, and depth is important. Get as far as you can without getting into trouble. This is one of my all-time favorite holes. This last finishing 3 holes, I think we've done really, really well with. The idea has always been to try to make sure that, imagining in a tournament, you've got 2 or 3 players locked in a tie, playing the last 3 holes. Let's make sure that the holes are challenging. They'll punish bad shots, but let's make sure that there's opportunities to score.
This one, name of the game, is the exact same. About 330 feet, dead straight. Put yourself in a good spot.
So that finishing a tournament is not just a matter of survival. You've actually got to continue to push and challenge yourself and attack the holes.
Pretty much the ideal landing zone here on 16. Probably about 265 in.
And if you're behind, you have an opportunity to get some birdies and win some strokes back. So this is the beginning of the last 3. Took great care to make them work in a tournament setting. Here we are on hole 17. This one's called Pit Run, as you have to run the pit in some way. Par 3, not terribly long, but a challenging low ceiling shot. The play is to skip up here, work your way to the basket, or throw right over to where the camera is and lodge it into the hillside on the right. Give yourself an easier comeback putt. A long putt is a bit of a death putt. The target is bracketed by a pit on the right and quite an interesting bunker on the left. Gives you a blind shot if you find yourself in there. And again, throw past the basket and you've got quite a challenge coming back. Really fun hole, opportunity for birdies, opportunities for a lot worse than birdies as well.
Super tight hole here, dangerous green. Anything inside circle's super good. Again, it's about 340 feet or so.
I don't play a lot of disc golf. My actual hobby is the course. I like to play disc golf and I like the people, but I don't get to play a whole lot. And when I have time for that in my mind, I tend to have to cut grass. Here we are on the long tee of hole 18. This one's called Cobra Commander, a nod to our youth. This one is a challenging carry. You need to carry it about 270 feet to hit right down the middle. Shorter if you burn out to the left, but ending on the left gives you a blocked approach. You can play down to the pit, many people do. Some of the layouts play this as a par 5. Feel free to play to the ground, work your way up and carry on, but a big piece of the fun is trying to make it over the pit. And again, you're gonna need to throw that disc at least 260 in the air to make the edge. A very beautiful, exciting final tee shot, and part of the goal was to make it a bit of a challenge, a bit of a mental trip for players in the lead, trying to hold on to a lead going into the final hole. I'm happy how this one comes out. It's a hard dog leg left, so you've really got to work your way around that corner with some intelligence.
Pretty signature hole out here. Again, you need to throw about 400 feet to get in position for the birdie. Pretty much got to go just to flip up hyzer. Perfect position on 18. 220 in, just slight hyzer, and the straw up there will kick you right towards the basket.
So that was my course, Project 15. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you're coming to play in the fall at the Canadian National Championships, I hope you enjoy the course too.